Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Planning Committee on Thursday, the 21st of May. I'll just read out the Chair's introduction. This is a public meeting and members of the public and press are permitted to report on the proceedings. Reporting includes filming, photography, making an audio recording and providing commentary on proceedings. Please note this meeting is recorded and streamed live. These recordings are published on the relevant meeting page of the Council's website. By choosing to attend this public meeting, you are deemed to have given your consent to being filmed or recorded and for any footage to be broadcast or published. If this must be evacuated immediately, do not spend time collecting personal belongings. All emergency escape routes are clearly signed. Once you've left the building, the assembly points on the High Street outside the Guildhall. And this is the most important thing, please. Everyone, members and other speakers, use your microphone when speaking, and if necessary, they do move towards you. Thank you. Okay, Margaret, do we have any substitutes, please, or apologies?
Yes, Chair, we have Councillor Desera for Councillor Barnes and Councillor Riaz for Councillor Lamb. Thank you.
Welcome, both of you, and thank you for subbing. So that we have a full committee, it's great. Now we've got declarations of interest. Steph.
Thank you, Chair. So we have two council-related applications on the agenda before members today. One being the Pump House, which is a council-owned building, and the second being the Corn Exchange, which is part of the Scala project. I have reviewed both, and I can't see that there would be any conflicts that would prevent anyone from participating and voting. So it's really just a question of any other declarations of interest that might need to be made. Councillor Desera.
I want to declare an interest in item 1 because I've previously objected to this item. I've since withdrawn that objection, but I do also want to speak. But for the avoidance of any sort of doubt, I will recuse myself for that item.
Thank you, Councillor. So just to be clear on that, Councillor Desera will leave the room for the duration of the officer presentation. She will then return to speak as she's entitled to do so as ward member, and she will take any questions. She will then leave the room again and won't return until the item has been concluded. Are there any other declarations? Councillor Kimberley?
Thank you. Just to obviously come clean that I have been involved with some ward work in the area around the retail estate, and I've been involved with a previous item. However, I'm approaching this as a fresh and separate item, so in no way sort of prejudging the application that's before us today. Thank you.
That's fine. Thank you, Councillor Kimberley.
Great, thank you. We've got the minutes of the previous planning committee. I'll just go through it page by page. Page 1, page 2, 3, 4, and 5. Yep, so we're all happy those are a fair reflection of what happened. Thank you. We've also got the minutes of the last Conservation Advisory Panel. This was held on the 1st of April, and these are just to note, and as always, it's just interesting to see what the members of the advisory panel have commented on. So I hope you've all looked at those. We didn't have any site visits today. Margaret, do we have any public participation or representation, please?
Yes, Chair, we've got speakers today on all 3 items on the agenda, details of which are on the sheet in front of you. Thank you.
Okay, that's great, thank you. So if we have Phil, if you want to come forwards, and then we've got Laura, who will be doing the officer presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So this application, item 8, relates to an application at Blackpool Retail Park, retail estate. Before I start, I wanted to make members aware of a change to the description of the development that has been made following the publication of the agenda to better reflect the proposals and ensure that it is accurate. it is now worded a variation of condition 1 of planning permission 25/00407/FUL, which related to a variation of condition 3 of planning permission P96 G0103 to allow the increase area of Unit 1 for food sales, to allow the amalgamation of Unit 6 and 7 for the sale of food and the overall increase floor area of food retailing. The proposed amendment is sought under Section 73 of the Town and Country Planning Act 1990 to enable the relocation of the M&S Food Hall to Units 6 and 7 at Blackpool Retail Park within Worcester. Paragraphs 7.2 and 7.4 of the Office report sets out the relevant considerations of a Section 73 application. M&S Food Hall is currently operating within Unit 1 with a floor area of 1,700 square metres. The relocation to Units 6 and 7 would allow them to operate within a larger floor space. The total proposed combined floor space of Units 6 and 7 is 2,100 square metres. The proposals, however, do include the removal of the existing mezzanine within Units 6 and 7. The application referred to committee at the request of Councillor De Serra, following a potential conflict with Town Centre First policies, impacts on Worcester City Centre vitality, accessibility and transport. Concerns relate to the potential loss of Marks and Spencers from the High Street, impacts on footfall and independent retailers, and whether the proposal could increase out-of-centre retail capacity and traffic congestion. Members may recall that the application was previously withdrawn from the Marks Planning Committee following receipt of the Inspectorate's final report in respect of the South Worcestershire Development Plan review, resulting in the need for the local authority to give significant weight to the new emerging local plan. There was a specific change to the retail policy within the introduction of SWDPR 13, requiring that considering retail proposals, including applications for variation of planning conditions, the threshold for requiring a retail impact assessment to be submitted should apply to the whole of the application unit rather than just the quantity of floor space subject to a planning condition. As such, a retail impact assessment has now been submitted and is referred to within the Officer report. South Worcestershire Development Plan Review 2026 has now been formally adopted, so forms a statutory basis for decision making. I wanted to highlight the late papers circulated since the publication of the Officer reports. One with an updated comment from Councillor De Serra advising that she would like to withdraw her objection but wishes to raise residual concerns relating to infrastructure, traffic management, site maintenance, including litter, lighting and wider concerns relating to the long-term cumulative impact out of city centre expansion. The other late paper is a statement submitted by M&S setting out the background to the proposals and the increased offer that the store would bring, which includes the creation of 21 new job roles, new product ranges such as nutrient dense and a new hot chicken counter. I also wanted to make members aware that the Civic Society have today made an additional comment raising concern with regard to a specific element of the retail impact assessment in respect of the quantitative comparator. Officers are content that the reasoning and conclusions reached are robust and no further justification would be required. So, location plan here, Blackpool Retail Park comprises of 8 retail units forming a terrace. In addition, there is a more recent addition of a separate pod with 3 smaller units and a standalone McDonald's restaurant with a drive-through. Another plan here, just showing the extent of the site outlined in red. In terms of background, an application for the proposed external alterations has also been approved under delegated powers. Application site itself just focuses on units 6 and 7, forming the end units of the main retail terrace. Now some other site photos of the retail park with the existing M&S Food Hall in the background, unit 1 on the photo, and on the left, on the right, looking towards McDonald's. Got more photos around the retail park. In terms of the principle of development, the principle of food retailing at the site is already established. No new food retail operator is proposed, but rather the development would facilitate the reconfiguration and redistribution of the existing floor space of the existing M&S Food Hall within the retail park. The extant planning permission allows for up to 2,778 square metres gross of food retail floor space across units 1 and 3, 1 being the existing M&S and unit 3 being the food warehouse at Blackpool. The proposed variation would instead permit food retailing from unit 3, the food warehouse, still, and the amalgamated unit 6 and 7, resulting in a combined total floor space of 1,378 square metres. This equates to a net uplift of 400 square metres in the permitted food retail floor space when compared to the existing planning permission. The proposal does include the removal of the existing mezzanine, so that would result in an overall reduction of approximately 1,700 square metres of total floor space across the units. To ensure that no mezzanines or additional floors are created without planning permission, condition 4 has also been recommended and agreed by the agent. In accordance with SWDPR 13 and the MPPF, a sequential test has been carried out with the results submitted. The application site is more than 300 square metres walking distance from the nearest defined centre, which is Blackpool Neighbourhood Centre. Therefore, the proposal is considered to be an out-of-town location and the sequential test is required. It advised within the submitted plan in a retail statement that the operational and locational requirements of the M&S food hall format with regard to size, type and range of goods is as following. Floor area of 1,200 square metres gross to enable them to provide the range of goods and facilities that you would find within an M&S food hall. Good access to sufficient surface level car parking to enable shoppers to use trolleys. A site that can allow safe manoeuvring of customer vehicles and delivery vehicles on site. Sites within a town centre or retail park where the combination of the prominence, location and proximity to other retailers provides a critical mass of attraction and the opportunity for M&S to benefit from pass-by trade and link trips. Good accessibility for customers to complement all of the above. Some of the results of the sequential test and details are outlined within section 1.5 to paragraph 2.34. Having reviewed the sequential test, officers are content that the requirements of the sequential test have been met. Sequential searches have identified no sites within defined centres that are available, suitable and viable to accommodate the proposed development. Consequently, there are no sequentially preferable alternatives to the proposed relocation and reconfiguration of M&S. The conclusions of the retail impact assessment are also set out within 7.40 to 7.46 of the officer report. It is noted that the majority of the affected stores are forecast to continue trading above benchmark levels post-development of the M&S, and that the impact on Worcester City Centre as a whole is demonstrably de minimis. The imposition of conditions to restrict the future use of Unit 1 ensures that the proposal does not facilitate additional convenience floor space beyond that assessed, and therefore preventing any unintended future retail impact. With regard to parking and highways, a transport technical note has been submitted with the proposals. This advises that an assessment of the existing and proposed traffic generation has been undertaken by a TRIX analysis, which identifies that there is likely to be an overall reduction in the associated traffic generation as a result of the proposed development. This is due to the proposed reduction in the overall floor space within Units 6 and 7 compared to what is there as existing. There are a number of minor amendments to the parking layout that are shown on the site plan. These have also been looked at as part of the other application dealt with under delegated powers. So the Highway Authority have commented stating that they have no objections. A condition has, however, been recommended to ensure compliance with the submitted parking plan. Requests have been made in third-party comments for developer contributions for junction improvements to improve existing congestion issues. Whilst these issues are subject of local concern, they are existing issues and the submitted proposals would only result in the increase of 400 square metres of food area. It's therefore considered that an obligation would not be necessary to make the development acceptable and as such would not meet the test for planning conditions set out, planning obligations set out within section, paragraph 58 of the NPPF. During the course of the application, concerns have also been raised with regard to the potential for the M&S Food Hall to start selling clothing and the full range of goods that would be offered in a city centre M&S store. However, condition 1 as reworded does strictly control the permitted uses of the application unit to carpets, furnishings, electrical goods, automotive products, DIY, home improvement goods, garden products and pet related goods, and for no other purpose, with the exception of units 3 and 6 and 7 as combined for the sale of food. For the reasons set out within the officer report, whilst the concerns raised throughout the application have been considered in detail, it is considered that proposals do comply with policies SWDPR 6, SWDPR 13 and SWDPR 28. It is therefore recommended that the Section 73 application is approved, subject to the recommended conditions set out in Section 9 of the report, including amended Condition 1 to reflect the amended retail floor space cap, and together with a reimposition of the other conditions attached to the original planning permission that do remain relevant. These have been updated where necessary to ensure compliance with latest planning policy guidance. It's therefore recommended that the application is approved. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Laura. So we'll now go to our public representation. We've got Phil. I believe you're a town planner on behalf of M&S. You've got 5 minutes. I'll time you. I'll start waving about 4:45. Thank you.
Planning condition which restricts the level of food retail floor space at Blackpool Retail Park to 2,778 square metres. This currently allows M&S to trade from Unit 1 and Iceland Food Warehouse to trade from Unit 3. Unit 1 no longer meets our requirements due to its size. We need to move to a larger unit to enable us to sell our full food range, to allow us to display more of each product line, and to greatly improve the overall customer experience. The amalgamated Unit 6 and 7 will allow us to do this, and an uplift of 400 square metres in the wording of the planning condition is required. Throughout the application process, the Council has considered all technical issues, with the main matters relating to retail policy and highways. A retail impact assessment has been submitted to support the application. It concludes that there will only be a negligible impact upon other retail centres, including the city centre. It's important to note that the proposal is simply to provide an improved and larger food hall at Blackpool Retail Park. This will not affect our existing city centre store. That store is a full-line store which sells fashion, home and beauty ranges in addition to food. It therefore provides a different retail offer. Worcester City Centre is a strong centre and we want to retain our presence here. In respect of the sequential approach, we have assessed a number of sites, including the former House of Fraser, Gala Bingo and former Poundland units. We've demonstrated that these units and others are either no longer available or they're unsuitable for occupation by virtue of their size, configuration, operational issues or location. It follows that the sequential test has been passed. In respect of highways, the Council has fully reviewed the technical evidence and concludes that the proposal will not cause any severe impacts on the local network. And it should be noted that the application will actually reduce the amount of floor space at the retail park by approximately 1,700 square metres due to the removal of the mezzanine floors within Units 6 and 7. Additionally, our current store at Unit 1 will be conditioned so that only bulky goods can be sold from that unit going forward. The proposed larger store will bring benefits to the area. Customers will notice a big difference with a larger bakery, a new hot chicken counter, and a much improved store environment. The new store will safeguard the existing 47 jobs at the current store and then create more than 20 new roles. M&S is well known for investing heavily in colleague training, career progression, and overall well-being. Colleagues benefit from a comprehensive benefits package, including a 20% discount and an industry-leading pension scheme. We also recently announced that all store colleagues received a 6.4% pay rise in April. M&S also supports local suppliers and British farmers. We are widely recognised for championing high-quality British produce. Within the Worcestershire area, M&S works with 5 local suppliers, including Muller, Red Deer Herbs, and Harvey and Brockles. These companies employ almost 1,100 people. We also work with 35 select farms in the county. A stronger M&S business nationally means stronger order books for local suppliers. So every shopping trip at this store will help sustain jobs well beyond the boundaries of this site. We are fully committed to this site and we want to progress works quickly. If approved today, the new store could be open as soon as spring next year. Officers have carefully considered this application and are recommending approval. I hope that you agree and vote to grant planning permission. Thank you.
Great, thank you. If I want to open the floor for questions for Phil, please. I'll start with you, Councillor Amos. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Marston, I should have declared an interest in that I'm one of your biggest customers because you're the only retail outlet that I know that sells clothes that actually fit me. So I'm very grateful, so I don't want to lose you in the high street. And Councillor Udall as well, he has the same problem. But seriously, obviously the concern here is the effect it has on the high street, because it's a massive store, literally and physically in the centre. And would it be true to say that if you were to lose the food hall in the high street store, given the disproportionate profits that it makes for you overall, that it would put your overall store in some doubt, because obviously the profit margins on everything else that you mentioned, they're smaller than they are on food, which is obviously why you're expanding food and nothing else. Now, I can see the answer, but I'd just like you to say that, because then we've got to assess how accurate your assessment might be.
So the store in the city centre is a full line store, so that stocks our full product range. So that there is a smaller food hall, or it'll be smaller than our proposed new store, but it also stocks fashion, home and beauty. We can't replicate that on the retail park because we need a much larger store to do that. So the city centre store will remain in where it is, in its place. We want to be in Worcester city centre. There are absolutely no plans to come out of that unit, and the food hall will stay within that store as well. But because of its city centre location, that performs a slightly different role to a retail park location where we've got a car park outside. So where you've got a level car park directly outside the unit, you can attract people who are doing larger food shops with trolleys. Whereas the city centre food element is more for smaller basket shopping trips, people who work, who want to pop in for lunch, and just generally, smaller amounts per trip. But there are no plans to change that store in any way.
Very quickly, Chair, and in making that statement, do you have the authority of the highest management that you know? Because obviously you would say that, but I think people are generally concerned, you can make that statement, and obviously we believe what you say, but have you got the authority to actually say that it's safe and it's secure for the foreseeable future?
Yes, there are absolutely no plans to do with the Worcester City Centre store. It will remain where it is.
I've got Councillor Udall, please.
Thank you, Chair. For declaring interest, I've just had a Marks and Spencer sandwich. It was very good. But I do have a serious question, which is not related to Council Amos. It's a different issue. It's about it being a destination venue, where a large proportion of people will more than likely than not be attending by car. The question which I have is, what is your anticipated increase in the uplift of sales from what you've got at the moment to what you're planning, and so that can give us a balance and a measure. I'm not asking for the detailed figures, but the percentage uplift, which will give us a detailed indication of what kind of extra vehicle movement would likely to be coming as a consequence of the development.
Well, I can't share sort of financials, but I think the point is that we've already got a food hall at the site. This proposal simply allows us to increase the size of it, which will allow us to sell our full food product range and more of each item. So it's not necessarily that we're going to attract double the number of cars. It's that we're trying to encourage our customers to spend a bit more money per trip, so that the per basket spend will increase.
But no doubt you will be expecting a return on the capital employed on the site, and consequently there will be a requirement to increase more trade in the area, and consequently more traffic will be attracted to the site. Surely that's an observation which can't be denied.
Sorry, wait a minute. We're just going to have Paul come in to clarify something. Thank you.
I just thought it might be helpful just to clarify a point that the speaker made earlier in respect of the amount of floor space that will exist after this proposal. So if you just look at page 15 at 7.7, you'll notice that the removal of the mezzanines will remove 1,700 square metres of retail floor space. So when you're doing your analysis, members, of traffic and what increase, actually there's no increase in floor space that's been created. There is a reduction in floor space. So in terms of traffic numbers, if you're crunching the numbers from, as the Highway Authority have done, they have looked at that there is a reduction in the amount of retail floor space by 1,700. Now, what you're balancing that against, and I think Councillor Udall's question is aiming at this, is that whilst quantity has reduced, quality will be increased, and therefore there may be the increase in vehicles. But what you've got to do is work out the difference between the reduction in the amount of floor space and the upping of the quality. And what officers are advising is that that provides a neutral effect, that the amount of reduction versus the amount of quality. That's the advice of officers.
If I may, of course, there's a huge difference between non-food and food retail sales and the amount of customer flow that can attract, which is the consequence, which is the reason for my questioning.
I'd just also add that this is now a well-established sort of retail destination. So lots of people, especially when they're doing their food shop, they will link their trip with another retailer. So at the moment, some people may go to Lidl, do the shopping at Lidl and go home. But if there's a slightly bigger and better quality M&S food, they might go to Lidl, do their shopping as they normally would, but because of the improved M&S food, they might link that trip with the trip to us. So it's not necessarily all new additional trips on the local network.
Yeah, okay, we'll move on. I've got Councillor Kimberley, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. I have to say, I think I feel for you a little bit in the sense that with this application, you've sort of walked into a conversation which has been going on around the estate and around the retail park for quite some time, which does really revolve around traffic and traffic planning. You will probably detect from around the room and from the nature of the conversation that there is some disagreement in the interpretation of the traffic load around Blackpool Road. Our residents certainly feel very strongly, and certainly the impression that one gets I'm trying to think what word it is. Anecdotally, the experience that one might have around the retail estate is that it is frequently heavily congested. So you can imagine why an application which does, in real terms, mean that the store itself will be larger and will stock more, will presumably do more business, why that might inspire some anxiety, why that might inspire some concern. I think my questions really to you would be based on, partly on the concerns raised by Councillor De Serra, partly based on concerns that I will have heard from residents. Do you have any plans to address some of the challenges of this location, particularly around the congestion, the state of the lighting and the litter problem that is endemic to that trading estate?
Well, we can work with the landlord, legal in general, on any specific environmental issues like you've just mentioned, but also we have things called travel plans, so we can encourage our own colleagues to walk to work, get the bus to work, but because we are a tenant on that retail park, we're somewhat limited into what we can do physically, but we can certainly work with the landlord to address any concerns, and I'm more than happy to take them away.
Yeah, thank you for that question, Councillor Kimberley. I was just thinking about what Laura, you mentioned the 400 metres squared increase and the magnitude that you'd need for how expensive it would be to sort out that junction, and it's not comparable. And when I was thinking of 400 metres squared, just to get it in my brain how big that was, I saw that a professional tennis court is 440 metres squared. So in my head, it's not a huge area, just to make it a real term. We've got Councillor Agar next, please.
Thank you, Chair. I think I'm quite happy to accept your assurance that you'll be addressing the litter and antisocial behaviour issues. It wouldn't fit with Marks and Spencer's ethos not to do that, in fact, exactly. Because your frontages are usually pristine, so I accept that assurance. What I find a little bit more problematic is I'd like a complete assurance, really, that you won't incrementally move out of the city centre. Can you give that?
The only thing I can say is that there are no plans to move out of the city centre store. It is a strong store, and it's a strong centre. So we want to trade in strong locations. Worcester city centre, undoubtedly, I've been here several times before, it is a great city centre, and we want a store in a thriving centre like Worcester is.
Well, thank you for that. That's reassuring. Of course, if you wished to change your retail offer and add other lines, such as clothing, for example, you would need another planning application.
Yes,
you understand that?
Yes.
Fine. I think that's about it then. What worried me was that Marks and Spencer have a track record of moving out of town centres where they have an out-of-centre venue.
Not in this
perhaps
location.
that information is a few years old and that you may have changed your policy. Am I right in thinking that?
So in this location, we have no plans to do anything with the city centre store. I can assure you.
Thank you for that assurance.
No problem.
I've got Councillor Riaz, please.
Thank you, Chair. I am picking up these papers a bit late, so I haven't had fully chance to read them fully, so forgive me if I ask a question and it's already in the papers. The first clarification I want to seek off you, Paul, is that you said you're moving from Unit 1 into the other unit, but you're keeping Unit 1, or is that correct?
No, so we will relocate from Unit 1 to combine Unit 6 and 7, and then Unit 1, there'll be a condition on the planning permission which prevents food from being sold from that unit. So that will help control any traffic concerns as well.
Okay, so that unit will then go back on the open market, so it will be an empty unit, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, fine. That's the first clarification. Second question, in terms of obviously, how much dwell time do you expect visitors in this new store to spend within the store doing their outlet shopping? Because obviously, from a quick shop and go model to a longer dwell time in terms of that, what's the increase in dwell time that you expect?
It's quite a difficult question, but again, because we already have a store, it's not going to be a huge increase in dwell time. Because of the increase in store size, that there might be some increase, but it's not going to go from 20 minutes to an hour and a half. It will be a small increase, simply due to the increase in size of the store, but it's not going to be a step change in magnitude.
Okay, I mean, I tend to kind of disagree with that. Obviously, if you've got a lot more range and a lot for a fuller range, then generally, if you're doing a full supermarket shop, on average, it's going to take a minimum of an hour to kind of do, depending on how busy you are, etc. So that will add to, in terms of, I suppose, the congestion argument that people are making in terms of that. Appreciate they're spending more time, more money within that location, but I think there is an argument that more dwell time will increase in the congestion element to that. There are two further questions, Chair. One in terms around, I did just quick Google of a ZAP map in the location in terms of EV charging, etc. In terms of that, I don't know if there's any EV charging supplied as part of this transformation in terms of your, the overall appeal and image you want to set in terms of Warndon. A quick ZAP map reveals not many EV chargers in terms of that, and towards obviously electrification, adding to the dwell time argument. And most supermarkets now, or larger store offerings, have that offering. And I couldn't spot that within this application, and correct me if I'm wrong. And the final one is in terms of local produce. In terms of that, obviously an increase, we're all concerned about food miles, etc. What's the provision about local produce from local farms or within the vicinity in terms of that? Is there a minimum percentage of that will go into the store? Thank you.
The first question in terms of EVs, that's something that we can pick up with our landlord, again, because we're a tenant. The second query about local suppliers, we work with around 35 farms in the county, and we work with local suppliers in the Worcestershire and surrounding areas. We always try to use high quality local suppliers where we can, again, as you say, to reduce food miles and help influence and lower our overall carbon footprint. But yeah, our sourcing team are always looking for new high quality suppliers. But yeah, it's something that's constantly ongoing.
Sure. One final question, Chair. It's a question you may not be able to answer, but obviously the new employment that you're going to create, can you assure us they're not going to be on 0 hours contracts?
I don't think I don't think they're sort of legal anymore. So
you can't
yes.
fire and rehire them.
Exactly.
We'll move on, please. I've got Councillor Kinsley. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I've got a few things to ask about as well, if that's okay. I was interested in the nature of the jobs that were going to be created through this. I think that is something that we should be welcoming. I mean, I acknowledge colleagues' concerns over the traffic and those sorts of issues, and that's terrific. But we should also be welcoming these sorts of jobs, and I'm assuming that they will be but I'm seeking clarification, the range of jobs, from sort of shop level for sort of perhaps younger people up to managerial jobs as well. So that's good to see, and I'd welcome some further clarification on that. I did also want to ask about a very straightforward question. Where do you may or may not know this, but where the nearest M&S food hall of this size is currently? I'm interested to understand, picking up on Councillor Udall's comment about it being sort of a destination, to what extent might we be getting people sort of coming in from outside the area? And I imagine that people will, in Marks and Spencer's, will have done that sort of analysis. I mean, it does say in the, I think it's the covenant, the retail impact covenant, it implies that they're looking at a 60% uplift in turnover, so that's not insubstantial. the implication in that document is that actually that increase may come from within Worcester, and I wonder actually if it might come more from the Droitwich area. So if there's nothing else of this sort in that area, then that could be a conclusion from there. Just one final comment, if I may. If you're talking to your landlord about various aspects to do with the space outside. Firstly, welcome the increase in disabled parking. That's great. But could we ask about cycle parking? I was trying to think what cycle parking there is in that area. I don't think it's huge, and it's always good to have more. It's not a great place to cycle to, but there are ways to get into it safely via on a bike. So more cycle parking is always welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, I can certainly pick up those points with our landlord. In terms of where we're expecting to draw our trade from, it will mostly be the Worcester area and probably Droitwich Spa as well, but I don't think it would go much further afield than that. I'm trying to figure out where our nearest sort of new format food store that would be comparable in size to this, and I think it would be in Cheltenham on Centrum Retail Park. That was a new food hall that opened, I think, at the start of last year. It's going to be a similar size. And yes, it's a very, very nice store. And yeah, customers are very happy with it. I can't remember your first question.
It was just whether you can elaborate more on the types of jobs that would be on offer.
Yeah, so a full range of jobs, part-time roles, full-time roles, flexible working, and it will go right up to supervisors and management roles. And we have a range of really good training programs as well, which are open to all. If you want to think about becoming a store manager, M&S will put you on a training course for that. If you want to do something in the support centre or the distribution side, there are opportunities for you.
Okay, are there any further questions? No? Okay, you're free to return to the public gallery. We'll just wait for Councillor Sarah to come back in the room. So welcome back into the room, Councillor De Sarah. You're here as the ward councillor, which means you can speak for as long as you like. We'd prefer it if you didn't keep us here till tomorrow. The floor is yours.
I'm sitting ward councillor for Warndale Elbury Park. And I had previously objected to this application, chiefly because I was worried about the effects that it might have on the high street store, as in it might go. But I'm satisfied that the new conditions or the explicit exclusion of clothing sales from the proposed development do knock that objection, the principal objection, on the head. So I withdrew that part of it. I also recognise that within this appropriate planning framework, investment in Blackpool Retail Park has potential to bring many positive benefits to the area through job creation, customer choice, wider economic activity. So I think the development is likely to become a successful and attractive retail destination. And then we come to the other side of the question, as far as my residents are concerned, because this likely success further underlines the long-standing concerns repeatedly raised by local residents around infrastructure, traffic management, accessibility, and the general upkeep of the wider site. And those areas remain, in my view, not sufficiently well addressed. I do recognise that some of these matters are outside the direct remit of the Planning Committee, but they nevertheless form part of the local context and the day-to-day experience of nearby communities, and I believe they should be formally acknowledged. So in particular, traffic congestion and transport infrastructure. As members of the committee consider this application, I would ask you to reflect on how you would feel knowing that at commuter times, weekends and bank holidays, you could effectively be trapped on your own street because of gridlocked traffic around the retail park. Many of you will probably have experienced similar congestion yourselves on the surrounding roads at peak times, so you know what I'm talking about. Yet whenever traffic assessments are undertaken by Worcestershire County Council Highways Authority, they start by assuming that everything is okay and therefore the small increment is not going to be a problem. When things are not okay to begin with, that doesn't ever get taken into account. And again, I recognise that within the scope of this committee, that's not going to be addressed. But I'm going to keep saying it until something can change and it can be assessed holistically and within the context. And also, any assessment that was done, and this never happens, is then assessed afterwards. You know, there was an assessment, probably famous Starbucks application, 5% added. I mean, that's not actually been built yet, but you know what I mean? When they actually have something built and approved, there's never any retrospective look to say, well, was that estimate actually correct or not? So these are problems with the process, as I see it. But the results of those problems is that people then have to live with more and more congestion and disruption. So, residents already face severe and persistent congestion around the retail park, particularly at key junctions and during peak trading periods. The success of this development, which I think is likely, will place additional pressure on that already strained road network. I think there is now a strong case for Worcestershire County Council as the Highways Authority to begin considering long-term infrastructure traffic management solutions for the area. The scale and pace of retail growth at Blackpool increasingly requires a more strategic response rather than continued piecemeal assessments. Secondly, management standards across the retail park. So residents continue to raise concerns about the general management and maintenance of the retail park environment. These include persistent littering, insufficient or overflowing bins, and ongoing vermin issues that negatively affect nearby residential areas and undermine public confidence in the site's management. There have also been repeated sightings of vermin within the retail park car parks and increasingly in residents' gardens, an issue residents directly associate with poor waste management and site maintenance standards. In addition, there are repeated reports of sections of the car park, especially on the Blackpool side, being left in near darkness during evening hours, creating understandable concerns about pedestrian safety and personal security. I would strongly encourage the site owners, managing agents and retail tenants to work together to improve maintenance, cleanliness, waste management, lighting and overall standards within the wider retail park. If this application is approved, I also hope that M&S, as a major tenant with an increased influence and a strong public reputation, will use its presence and commercial influence positively to help drive improvements to the wider management and standards of the site for the benefit of customers, neighbouring residents and the city as a whole. One final point, while specific concern regarding direct competition with the high street clothing offer has now been addressed through exclusion of the clothing sales, residents and stakeholders continue to express broader concerns about the cumulative long-term impact of continued out-of-centre expansion on Worcester's wider retail geography and transport network. I respectfully ask that these concerns are recognised as part of the overall planning balance and that the relevant authorities, landowners and site managers work collaboratively to address the infrastructure and environment issues that local residents already experience on a daily basis. Thank you very much. I'm happy to have any questions.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll open the floor for questions, please. Councillor Udall.
Yeah, thank you. Can you comment about the busyness or lack of the current car park in the area and how often that is actually over-occupied and the consequences already at the current site of potential commuter parking elsewhere in neighbouring streets?
The car park itself may or may not get full, but because there's no way to understand if it is full or not, it often appears to be full because you're driving along the edge. And we have suggested to the retail park they might put up a sign to say, you know, so many spaces free, and that might then encourage people to come in and look for a space. But what a lot of, delivery drivers and people like that who are going to the KFC, they choose to park in Masons Drive instead of even going into the retail park because of that perceived problem or actual problem, depending on, you know, what exactly is going on. So I hope that answers your question. I mean, there is definitely overspill parking. It's not just, even if the car park's full, people know that trying to turn right out of it, as in a right turn out of that car park during busy periods, isn't worth the bother. So they go and park in one of the side streets instead.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Councillor Rudge.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Teixeira. I understand your concerns, and I particularly understand the concerns of your residents, because we have been through this conversation before. It seems to me that in many ways the issues you're raising actually are not directly related necessarily to whoever takes over those units. They're broader issues which would apply regardless of who took over the units. Right. So there is an argument whereby you could say, if no one took over the units and they remained empty, then the traffic congestion at least doesn't get any worse. But as a long-term solution, obviously that's not really viable, and that's not what the landlord would consider to be acceptable. So it is possible, of course, that someone other than M&S who took over those units may have even more traffic, and so which we can't predict. And so we have to try and weigh up the kind of the sort of pros and cons about whoever takes over those units. There is an argument, isn't there, that actually traffic moving down to that end of the retail site is probably better than it all being sort of squashed up at the other end, where there seems to be more competition for spaces. And it is possible that someone as kind of, I don't know, as reliable an employer as M&S are, may well take greater care of that end of the retail park than is currently the case. So I suppose a degree of it is going to be goodwill, you know, on the part of whoever takes over those units, and then the wider issue to do with the transport. I think perhaps as a planning committee we've got to try and address with regard to the whole of the retail park rather than just one employer, because it's a problem, isn't it, regardless of who takes over this unit. It's a problem right across the two sides. I don't honestly know the answer to that, but I'm hoping Mr. Round might be able to give me some clarity on the issue as to how we deal with that. Whether it's, for example, to put pressure on county highways to add another entrance at that end, you know, the other side of McDonald's possibly. I don't know, but I sympathise with your concerns. I do want, it's a shame in a way that you didn't listen to the other presentation. I think we got some reassurance that...
Councillor Rudge, have you got a question for Councillor Teixeira, please? Because this is a very big statement that you're making.
Yes, if I had to sum up my long-winded speech, it would be, do you, with the question, this question, do you accept that whoever takes over that site, we're going to have the same problems, and the problems are much greater than necessarily, you know, this employer or that employer, that it's a whole site issue that we need to be addressing? Apologies for the rambling, Chair. I hope that's question's clear.
So to a degree I accept it, absolutely. But I think there is a special case here because M&S being the name it is, and the stores, I've seen all the papers, it's going to be a very attractive store. It looks great, you know, I have to say. It's going to be a destination place, which currently is not there. So I think on balance the traffic will get worse with this being a popular site. And let's face it, everybody wants it to succeed. I'm looking forward to the local employment opportunities coming along with it. That's great, you know. The problem is that every single individual item that gets reviewed gets the same answer. It's not too bad, it'll be all right, just a bit more, it'll be fine. But it's not fine now. And my question is not really, my concern is not, strictly speaking, directed at M&S themselves. It's about the County Council Highways not having a strategic plan for fixing a systemic problem. And it goes way down to Cotswold Way. So therefore, the fact it's on Blackpole rather than Elgar, you know, it's still bad. But nevertheless, I don't want to lose the opportunity to keep making the point, because these problems exist. And there are people in Masons Drive who don't go out at weekends because of it.
Councillor Cross.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Sarah, for coming and raising these points. And yeah, I understand that obviously a lot of the question and a lot of the points you're making is that this sort of cumulative, lots of little changes actually ends up with an overall large increase. Just wondering what engagement have you had, or opportunity have you had to discuss this with your local county councillor, for example, in the ward?
I haven't had any chance to discuss this with my local county councillor, no, not yet. I have asked him to conduct a traffic safety survey in a different part of the ward, which hasn't happened yet. But yeah, I mean, a conversation would never hurt.
Okay, any other questions? No. Okay, thank you very much. Yes, please, and we'll call you back in after for the next item. We'll just wait for Councillor Sarah to leave the room. Do get your bag, yeah, absolutely. Don't worry. Okay, I'll now open the floor for questions for the officers, please. I've got Councillor Agar first, thank you.
Thank you. I've been listening with real attention to the questions that have come up at the moment, and a great many of them have related to highways issues. So I think what I want to say to officers is, can you actually clarify for members what we might see as our frustration with the transport plan as it exists now, and what really we should be thinking of in relation to the application? I think there's a difference.
Through you, Chair, I think it's been summed up fairly well in terms of the general questions and responses thus far, in that we have an existing situation which is acknowledged, I think, across the room in terms of the existing transport situation. We have an application here which doesn't increase the amount of floor space. So in terms of the quantity, in terms of how that it is addressed, you have a no objection from the Highway Authority. And from a purely planning point of view, it is logical to be able to go down the route of this is a neutral impact, as we discussed previously. There are some benefits that come with this application in terms of safeguarding the number of car parking spaces, which wasn't there in the original application, in terms of both the quantum and also the quality. And so there is additional spaces, accessible spaces and parent spaces, which are located on the other side of the car park where they're not at the moment. So again, there are benefits that go along with that. But ultimately, we're in a situation where we're looking at a variation of a condition to allow for food retailing from 2 units rather than 1, and we've got an uplift in food retailing space of 400 square metres. Overall, the officers' advice, both from the Highway Authority and from City Council officers, is that that is a negligible increase. And whilst it won't solve the issues that exist, what officers are saying is, in their opinion, it won't make it any worse.
I've got Councillor Ramos, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. 2 issues, I think, for me are what's important. I think there is a highways issue, frankly. I know the area, and obviously the councillors know the area as well, and we're all concerned about that. Paragraph, let me get the precise, yes, it's page 14, and it's under observations. And what one of the observations is, just above 6.2, Chair, so it's under 6.1, it obviously is, we're talking about a retail outlet which is going to have a wider range of goods. It's going to be bigger, so there'll be more to buy and more different things to buy. And therefore, I do find it a bit incomprehensible that one of the observations is that it won't directly result in an increase in parking demand. I mean, it just is not logical. And then if you go to paragraph 7.13, it actually says, M&S cater for shoppers wishing to buy a range of products and transport them away easily by car. So which is it? Either it's going to increase demand, or for some reason, it's bigger, more things to buy, but it's not going to increase demand. That is to say, it's not going to increase the number of people visiting it. So which is it? And I just sometimes wonder what planet some people are on, because it talks about under 7.9. Apparently this retail park has got access by all travel modes, particularly bus, cycle and walking. I'll be honest, Chair, I don't know anybody who does their huge food shop by foot, and I don't know anybody who does their food shop by cycle. And as for the buses, perhaps the officer can tell us where the bus stops are and how frequently they are, because all the times I've been there, and I use the retail park, it's a good one, I've never seen anybody get off a bus, buy something from a big store, and walk away and get on the bus again. And I've never seen them walking in either. It's cars, 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 like it or not. The second point, Chair, that I like to question.
I am going to interject there.
Sorry?
Because I cycled to that retail park.
You're an exception to us all, Chair.
And
You're exception to us all.
when I get there are other bikes locked up as well that aren't mine. Okay? Next.
That was directed to the officers, Chair, my question. Well, I'm sure the officers can tell me if I'm wrong about who uses the retail park and who doesn't. But the second question is, it comes to the retail impact assessment. I have yet to see I've yet to see an assessment done by consultants which doesn't come up with the answer that the applicant wants. You know, money can buy the best outcome that you want. And looking at this retail impact assessment, some of it makes sense, but some of the figures I find absolutely extraordinary, because it says, inter alia, it talks about 7.43 paragraph, that the effect on the high street is de minimis, minus 0.03%. That's absolutely extraordinary. In other words, it's making no impact at all. So can the officers tell me whether this impact assessment has been checked by somebody, or whether it is simply what paid consultants have come up with?
Through you, Chair, in terms of the two questions, the one in terms of car parking, I don't think there's much I can respond. I think you've set out the factual elements. That's exactly what the report says in terms of the level of car parking, and that's a matter for members to be able to consider. We are content that there won't be any adverse impact in terms of highway safety, which is members' considerations as part of this application. In respect to the retail impact assessment, it has been checked by officers. Given the level of the 400 square metres increase, it wasn't considered that it was necessary to have that independently checked. Officers have done sense check, and we are satisfied that the impacts and the numbers that are there are correct and can be relied upon for assessment.
Thank you, Chair. Could I just ask then the officers just to answer the questions about because they are specific, because the statement has been made, Chair, and I'm sure they can justify it. It is about the bus routes frequency and the walking and where the bus stops are. I mean, it's a genuine question. I mean, can I have an answer, please?
In respect of the bus services, we accept that there are bus stops in the area. That hasn't changed. They're they were when this application was considered for the very first time. And what we are looking at, we're just looking at a movement of the M&S store from one place to the other with a small increase in terms of the allowed retail area. The frequency of the bus is accepted that it's not ideal, but those situations for officers don't really come into that consideration when we're looking at a change of the condition. We're not looking at something new, we're looking at something that is moving from one place to the other.
I've got Councillor Udall, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Following Councillor Amos is a bit like following De Gaulle. It's almost impossible because he's asked quite a few of the questions I was going to ask, but there are a few left. I have a... Well, you do realise one of the buses you've talked about actually goes to Lower Wick, so you should be okay. One of the questions which I have left is, and I'm trying to read the paragraph, but I've written over the paragraph number, but it says in the loss of 11 standard parking spaces, but an increase in designated spaces. Can I have some clarity about what that actually means? How many new spaces will be established, and what actually is a designated space? My second question, if I may ask two at the same time, my history in food retail goes back to 2000, well, stopped in 2012, so my interests have long ended. But I have got some experience in food retail management from over 30 years ago. And I am aware, acutely aware, that there's a huge difference between food retail and non-food retail, especially when it comes to the impact it has on local communities. I am acutely aware that food retail attracts more vehicles and more shoppers than non-food. And just because the size is reducing by a certain amount by removing the floors, it does not mean that the increase in customer flow will reduce. It could actually increase. Has some calculations been done on the potential increase of customer flow to this site as a consequence of it ceasing to be a non-food premises and becoming a food premises? Because I know from my own experience that that can be substantial.
And through you, Chair, can I just clarify in terms of vehicle movements? In terms of customer movements, I don't believe that has been done. In terms of vehicle movements, that's something that the Highway Authority have done. And the analysis, as we've talked about, isn't looking at they're looking at the comparative difference between the 400 square metres, because there's a turn off of food retail in Unit 1, and that would be non-food. So effectively we're swapping the two across and it's the 400, so that hasn't been done. But in terms of vehicle movements, that has been done and the Highway Authority have no objections to that.
Can I just clarify again very quickly on that? The number of customer flows, because the nature of the size of the nature of the business, will be increase the number of traffic flow, because the vast majority of the customers will come by car. So the number of customers attending this site, because of the increase in food retail provision, is going to increase. Can I also add on, because I didn't ask the question when I should have done. When this site was first established, I believe it was for non-food only. There was no food businesses envisaged to be on this site. Can some clarity about that also be provided?
In terms of clarification, that is a correct statement. Through you, Chair, at the time that was what was proposed, and that's how the retail estate was designed. However, the whole process of having planning permission and allowing the City Council to consider those changes in terms of bringing food retailing into those stores was considered at the time. What we're looking at, a decision has been made and considered for 2 retail stores to be at the retail park already. We're not looking at changing that. There will still be 2 retail stores at this retail park. Well, the question that members are considering, and as part of the questions in the debate, is does an additional 400 square metres of food retailing make any adverse impact that would require a consideration against officer recommendation.
I've got Councillor Kin. On the, oh, yeah.
Glad you've got your memory, because I forgot that.
I can't read my handwriting, but I've got...
So probably paragraph 7.58 is helpful, but it's just reiterating the highway comments. In terms of the improvements to the car parking spaces, there will be 5 additional accessible spaces. There'll be 5 additional parent and child spaces, plus the introduction of 4 trolley bays. 7 additional staff bays will be provided in the rear service yard. But what those works do in terms of increasing the quality of those spaces, it does reduce the number of standard spaces, as you will appreciate, by increasing those.
They're important. Councillor Kinsley.
Thank you, Chair. My first question was that last point, actually, which is kind of understanding the background to this in terms of why food is limited. And I must admit, I still don't quite understand when it was first established as to why it was specifically non-food. There obviously were reasons why that, or was it just there wasn't the demand at the time for food? I don't know, because it was way before my time.
Through you, Chair, I wasn't here at the time, but from my experience in dealing with other areas and the typical retail parks that began at the time of when these were established, there wasn't the call at that point for food retail outside of city and town centres. And an assessment would have been carried out at that time in terms of what was required, but that was what was proposed, and that is what it was tied down to. And as I answered previously, there's the ability as part of the restrictive condition for the City Council to consider every new consideration on that basis.
I've got Councillor Rudge, please.
Thank you, Chair. I will keep it brief. What I'm wondering, and what I'd like Mr. Rand to help me on is, whenever we discuss something on this site or the other side of the road, it all comes back to the same issue of traffic and congestion. And I understand perfectly that there are very, very serious concerns from residents. I don't live there, but I do use that, and I often get stuck in it, and it's horrible. It's extremely slow. Ironically, one of the problems is the bus stop, which is between the mini roundabout and the main roundabout outside Aldi. So when that bus stops there, everything backs up. It's a mess. It is a mess. That doesn't mean we don't want the units to be used. What we do want, though, at some point, is for the traffic problems to be addressed. Is there any way we can do that, either through this application or as a wider issue dealing with county highways, to address the concerns of residents of the congestion as a whole, rather than just as a specific element to this application?
Through you, Chair, in terms of this specific application, and as members will be aware, members need to act proportionately in terms of any requests or requirements placed upon a planning permission. Your officer's advises that to deal with the issues, the existing issues, would not be a proportionate response based upon the application that is before you. I think there is a point that I think it's not just Councillor Rudge, but many members around the table have made already in terms of trying to address and use the opportunity to highlight this issue with the County Council, that something needs to be done. It may be, should councillors wish, for the Chair to write to the County Council to be able to raise this as an issue, that this has been raised as a significant issue. And whilst members, and I'm not putting words in your mouth, appreciate that it may not be able to be addressed through specific planning applications, that as a whole, that a consideration needs to be done, and that both the chair and perhaps ward members will meet with the representative from the county council to discuss that matter. That's a letter that could be drafted should members wish to do so. But in terms of the powers under this application, I think I would agree with your assumption that they are limited.
Suppose that we do that. Is that appropriate?
Sorry, well, what I was going to ask is, can I see a show of hands, people who would like to send a letter to County Highways? That's everyone except, you're not going to? No? Really? Okay, fine. Okay, that's most people, so I think that's good to go. Thank you. I've got Councillor Kimberley.
Thank you very much. My ears were burning a moment ago, but I will come back to the topic of traffic in a minute. I think that's sort of a different thing. I do want to ask if we could be walked through a little bit more about how the retail impact assessment is carried out and who carries it out, and particularly who selected the sites, because with much, love and respect to the applicants, I think they've gone through the process, very, very properly. Every piece of information in front of us seems to be true and reliable. But it just seems, from the outside, it could be misunderstood that it is very convenient that so many sites have been ruled out, and then the only one found to have any merit is the one that was the first choice. And I wouldn't want to leave that misunderstanding standing if it could be clarified now. Thank you.
In terms of the retail impact assessment, it is carried out by a qualified chartered surveyor that has the correct qualifications to be able to carry out retail impact assessments in terms of planning and their correct qualifications. They are bound by their own professionals, as I am, in terms of their integrity. So whilst I appreciate that from the outside it may appear that they will only ever come up with one answer, they are bound by their integrity to be able to come up with an argument. And with every profession, there is an argument that can be made. In terms of the assessment of the sites, it is something that is chosen by the assessor who does the retail impact assessment, but that is always checked with the local authority in terms of any other sites that might be considered. So it's a two-way conversation. It's something we would not have put this before members if we didn't think it was robust, that it had missed something, or that some element of consideration hadn't been taken into account. So yes, you have to employ somebody to be able to carry out these assessments. They are bound ethically by their own professional bodies to be able to carry out that in a professional way. That has been verified by the local authority in terms of our assessment, based upon our experience, and we are happy that that is suitable for members to be able to carry out an assessment.
So just to summarise so that I make sure that my understanding of this is correct, the retail impact assessment is commissioned by the applicant, it is conducted by a chartered surveyor, and then the factuality of that report is verified by council officers. Is that correct?
Correct.
I've got Councillor Cross, please.
Thank you, Chair. I've not seen much or read much mention of accessible toilet provision, and just wondering if that is something that is within our gift to look at, or whether it's already covered under existing other regulations, etc. And if it is within our gift, is it something that we could perhaps condition? I feel I should have asked that question of the applicant, but maybe I can ask it now, and that's appropriate. Thank you.
Through you, Chair, it's not within our gift. It's not something that we would consider as part of the planning process, particularly for a planning application such as this. However, should building regulations be required, which I'm pretty confident that the fit out will, they will need to adhere to building regulations which will require accessible toilets and such like.
Thank you. May I follow up? Do we have any SPDs or any other local policy documents talking about provision of accessible toilets, for example?
Through you, Chair, no, because again, it's a crossover of regulations, and one of the key aspects that government set out within the planning regime is that we don't duplicate other regimes.
Okay, is everybody had the opportunity to ask questions they want to? Yep, okay. If we move towards a debate, I don't know if anyone wants to kick us off, please. Councillor Kimberley, go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I mean, I think we've been sort of circling around that particular topic. I said I would come back to it, and I will, which is that question around highways. And from where I'm sitting, I think this discussion is almost a matter of trust, it's a matter of factuality. I think that we've got facts in front of us which are true and robust, but I think that it's always a matter of what questions have been asked to lead to those facts and where they take you. I think, do we trust Marks and Spencer's? Do we trust Legal and General? Do we trust the Highways team at the County Council? I think out of those, Marks and Spencer's come out way ahead in terms of the groups that I would trust on this. When it comes to Legal and General, there are serious site management concerns, which Councillor De Serra has outlined and which I am already aware of. It's not the applicant's job to fix existing problems with that estate, and I think that bears saying explicitly, but nonetheless, those problems are there. I think the biggest problem from where I'm sitting comes down to evidence that we don't have, because I think there has been a lack of curiosity and a lack of interest from the County Council. I very much welcome the decision taken a little while ago to issue a sort of a message to the County Council, but I would really like to underline that, underscore that, make that point again and again. The area around Blackpool Road has been left in a deeply unsafe and deeply concerning state for a long time. Traffic routinely backs up there. Residents and passers through constantly complain about the state of the local roads. That, again, does not fall on the applicant to fix, but the applicant has been caught in the crossfire yet again because of a failure to deal with this traffic management problem. And frankly, I look at the application and some of the logic that we're being asked to work through here. We're being asked to trust that an application which increases the food retail floor space in real terms, I grant you that the building itself might be having reduced floor space, but in real terms, the business will be using more floor space to sell food. It's an application which also increases the size of the trolleys that people will be filling, increases the time that they will be spending parked at the retail centre, increases the number of jobs and the profit it takes in, which increases the catchment area of the store well beyond the bounds of the surrounding neighbourhood, that this application will somehow reduce the amount of traffic flow. That doesn't make sense to me, and it's the sort of thing which I would imagine a competent highways team would have challenged early on and would have addressed early on. I think it is a real shame that they haven't, because it has robbed us of considerable power to seek mitigations, and it's robbed the applicant of the opportunity to make a reasonable assessment and make changes, as I fully believe they would. I think that we've not been given the evidence that we would need to act further on this. So again, I very much welcome the message that we'll be sending, but we really need highways to actually work with us on the traffic situation, the traffic management situation around this estate, or we will continue to have this conversation in meeting rooms like this about the state of the roads around the Blackpool retail estate, and we'll spend a lot of time debating applications which themselves aren't actually that bad. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Kimberley. Anybody else? Councillor Cross, go on.
Thank you, Chair. Much of the challenges that we've faced and discussed seem to not actually relate to the applicant and or the something within their gift to really control. Quality, I think, matters. A variety of food mix, and as we're in the debate section, I'd be quite happy to say I am minded to support this.
Let's park that because we are very early in the debate, Councillor Cross, but thank you. Councillor Agar?
You, Chair. With regard to Councillor Kimberley's points there, I mean, I'll just point to paragraphs 7.55 and 7.56. I'm hoping, Chair, that when we write this letter that we've been asked to write, that we actually ask what the mitigations pointed to in those paragraphs might be, and can they be brought forward fairly promptly? Because I think that at least that might help in some way. Other than that, I would like to say that I'm kind of stuck with the idea as well that the sequential test is something I only sort of half believe in. I appreciate that they're professionals. I appreciate what that means. But I also think it seems to strive rather hard after a particular result. And it makes me feel uneasy, is the best I can say. I appreciate Mr. Marsden is sincere in what he says about incrementally not moving out of the city centre, but I also know that Marks and Spencer has done this before in at least half a dozen places. I appreciate that their policy may have changed in the intervening time. So it's a rather difficult decision for me to make. I think I'm going to vote for it under protest in a sense, because I only half believe what's been said. But I'm forced to actually make a decision on what I've got in front of me. And I'm also forced to believe professional expertise. So that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to hope that I'm right, and to reinforce the point that should Marks and Spencer wish to incrementally change what they're doing out at the retail park, that they will need to come back to us and ask us again to approve what that is. So, may I?
We have a proposal from Councillor Cross, so you'd be seconding Councillor Agar, but if we can park that as well, because I've still got other people who'd like to speak. Well, it doesn't matter really, does it? Councillor Udall.
Thank you, Chair. I believe from my own experience and knowledge that the expected £4.58 million uplift in sales is a strong underestimate. I expect it to be considerably more than that, simply to justify the return in capital employed which would be required for such a development. Food retail delivers much more highway traffic than non-food retail, and I'm not sure we've taken that into account fully within the application process. The car park does have a current problem, and I do sincerely worry about the impact this will have on neighbouring residential streets. And I'm not sure what, if anything, can be done to modify or eliminate that consequence. But I don't think such a concern is strong enough for us to refuse this application. On balance, I look at it on a balance of probabilities and a balance of judgment. The application has considerable benefits, not just for the community, but commercially, economically, and for the society as well. So consequently, I will support the application. But I do have significant concerns about the impact this development will have on highways, on residential amenity, and on highway safety.
Thank you, Councillor Udall. One thing I wanted to suggest, actually, based on what lots of people have been saying about the impact of the antisocial behaviour, the litter and everything, all the other issues that the ward member brought up, whether we also, and I know this is unprecedented, write a letter to the site owner with those issues that have been raised by the ward member. Yeah, because again, we're talking about a cumulative impact from lots of planning applications. Can I see a show of
Chair,
hands?
we could flag it up with enforcement as well.
Yeah, thank you. That's unanimous. Thank you. We'll do that too. Yeah, go Paul.
Just through you, Chair, just a suggestion as well. I would suggest that once that letter has been drafted for Legal and General, that we copy Marks and Spencer's into that that letter, so that, as you heard from the public speaker, they will be raising this with their landlord. And if they are aware of the letter and the content, it gives them extra weight and extra, I suppose, a little bit of power to their arm to say that they know that the councillor have raised this, and that we can probably do that from two ways of attack. So that would be my suggestion.
Councillor Kinsley.
Thank you, Chair. Another area that, just to say, I sort of echo very much other councillors' comments on this, that it's, you know, there's concerns about it, but, you know, broadly speaking, I'd welcome this as well. But I'm just wondering if we can pick up, maybe in this letter to Highways, I'm not sure, or the council, the issue about not having the impact information afterwards. Is there anything that we can do so that when we have these things before us in the future, we can say, well, actually, we can draw on evidence from the past that shows there is an impact, because we just don't have that information. I don't know whether there's any area we can go to, whether we can raise that with the county.
Through you, Chair, I would suggest that we pick that up as part of those discussions, but it's obviously something for the county council to decide, but I see it as a sensible suggestion that there is a point in time that, let's say 2026, we have traffic data that we can utilise that gives the understanding of what the retail park is now, rather than using 2018 data that has been rolled out previously.
Yeah, and that's important, isn't it, Paul? Because we've got these pods and drive-throughs which weren't there when this Highways was actually designed in the first place. And since 2018, you know, we've now got those. So I think that's really fair to ask that. And another thing I just wanted to add is, I know we're talking about the importance of M&S in the town centre, of course, absolutely very important. But we don't want a retail park that looks crummy, to be honest, either. And having a good retail park with a spread of shops is something Councillor Reg said about, you know, putting M&S in the other corner might make the other corner a bit nicer as well. So, you know, that's important too, isn't it? Do I have anyone else who'd like to say anything? Well, if I go Councillor Riaz, because you haven't spoken much, go on.
Not as much as you, Richard. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I mean, overall, Chair, I think this is a significant amount of investment that's coming from a reputable national, international company, and for them to have the confidence of investing in Worcester and in that location shows that they've done their sums, they've done their homework, and they realise that it's going to be good for not only them, but it's going to be good for the local residents and the city of Worcester in terms of offering that choice in terms of that. And I think that's a overriding factor in support of what we're doing, and considering the current financial and climate that we're in, and what we're going through, notwithstanding the fact that all the other members have raised in terms of that, but that's not M&S's fault. You understand, that's not their fault in terms of that. They can do what they can do, what's within their control in terms of managing what's on their immediate doorstep in terms of, you know, litter, etc. But it is the site owner's responsibility and the highway's responsibility in terms of addressing all the other issues. That shouldn't be a barrier for us to be not approving this application today. Having said that, as you said, the officer said, the M&S name holds a great amount of weight, and if their name is on something and they can write to their landlord and say, this is what they've heard firsthand from this planning committee, these are serious concerns that the residents need to get a hold of and the local council, so that will hold weight and hopefully have some sway over any decision or any improvement that the landlord makes. So overall, I think this is a really beneficial application for this city and for this area. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Riaz, for also highlighting the benefits of the scheme. You know, this is really important. 52 existing roles safeguarded and 21 created. That's not insignificant. Councillor Amos.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Well, I think, frankly, it's all been said. But apart from what I said at the beginning and your comments just now about the impact it could have on the high street, I think has been underestimated. I mean, look at the high street. Argos is an empty shell. Debenhams was an empty shell till we decided to put a hotel on it. House of Fraser gone. All these big names. And because Marks and Spencer's is so critical in the sense that it's bang in the middle, and it's a massive store, and I'm genuinely concerned that because food is the biggest profit maker for them, that if the one on Blackpool takes off, as it could well do, and then they gradually diminish the food offer in the high street, that is going to have a disproportionate effect on the future of that store, because their biggest profits don't come from clothing and so on. And I don't know whether we've taken that into account. The retail impact assessment, really, I don't think is helpful on that. So I'm concerned that that risk has been underestimated. All the other issues, and I accept what colleagues have said, some of them are not the responsibility of M&S. I mean, the traffic is a mess around there, but with the current county council, you're not going to get any change out of them now for cars, so I don't know why we're bothering to write the letter. But, you know, write the letter and see what happens. It's a waste of time. So my concern, Chair, is about the effect on the high street. I don't mind, have no objection whatsoever with what Marks and Spencer's want to do on the Blackpool retail. In fact, I would support it. Thriving business, wider range of products, excellent, great. But it's the impact on the city centre. It wasn't that long ago, Chair. I think you're too young to remember, Chair. But it wasn't, yeah, well, certainly you were. And Mr. Rowland wasn't here. But the point of the matter is, it wasn't that long ago we had a debate about John Lewis. You know, and on that we held back. We said, no, fantastic store, everybody also John Lewis, but we said no because of the impact on the city centre. But now I think we've forgotten the lessons of that. So all I would do is urge a word of caution on this issue.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Amos. I mean, M&S are already at the site that we're talking about, but I'm thinking about the town centre one. It's got a cafe as well as you know, clothing, financial services. Yeah, it's a very different kind of store, isn't it? This is, you know, more like a posh supermarket, isn't it? You know, it's a very different kind of shop you're going to do here, I think. You know, I generally go to the one here to get my underwear and a sandwich. So, and I think that's kind of probably what people are still going to do, isn't it? I'm not going to drive out here to do that. All right. I think, has everybody spoken that wants to? Because we do have a proposal on the table from Councillor Cross and seconded by Councillor Agar. So are we happy to move to a vote, please? Yes? Okay. So can I see all hands in favour? Okay. Against? And abstention? Thank you. Okay. That has carried. Yeah, we are going to have a quick break. It is 4:37. Can we come back at Okay, right. Welcome back to the planning meeting. We're going to move to agenda item 9, which is for the pump house. And we have got the officer presenting as Ross. Thank you very much.
This application relates to the Kind Folk Cafe at the former Pump House building in Gallivelt Park. The building is locally listed and within the Riverside Conservation Area. Planning permission for the cafe use was granted in February 2025 and has been operating from that time. This application before you seeks to vary Condition 7, which controls opening hours. Currently, the cafe is permitted to open from 7 AM to 6 PM, with extended hours until 9 PM during the summer months, and up to 6 occasions per year until 10 PM. It is important to note that these hours were not imposed by officers or members, but offered by the applicant as part of the original proposal. The application now seeks to allow opening from 7 AM to 9 PM 7 days a week, all year round, while retaining the 6 late openings per year. The key issue for members is the impact on residential amenity. In this case, the proposal is considered modest as evening opening until 9 PM is already permitted during the summer months. Worcestershire Regulatory Services have confirmed that there have no complaints or nuisance issues to date, and they raise no objection. While 2 objections have been received relating to noise and disturbance, there is no evidence that the existing use has caused harm, and the site's location within a public park, with its primary outlook away from housing, reduces potential impacts. In heritage terms, there are no physical changes proposed, and therefore no impact on the locally listed building or conservation area. The local authority also raises no objection, and the proposal is not expected to materially change traffic or parking demand. Overall, this is a modest operational change to an established use with no objections from technical consultees and no evidence of harm. The application is therefore recommended for approval, subject to the conditions set out in section 9 of the officer's report.
Well, that was short and sweet. Thank you very much. Okay, so we've got public representation from Ollie and Adam. You're the co-directors of Yard Coffee Group. You've got 5 minutes. Thank you.
I'll keep it fairly short. As suggested, it's just an extension of hours. We trialled it last summer, it worked beautifully, and we had hugely positive feedback from the local community. So we're purely looking to extend that to allow us to offer the space in the evenings, obviously no later than 9, to family gatherings, possibly festive events, but it is really just low touch extension of hours. So I'll leave that with you.
Well, thank you very much. That was short as well, lovely. Can I open the floor for questions for the speakers, please? Councillor Ramos.
Thank you, Chair. I think we've met before at a committee meeting, if I recall, some time ago. I have to say, Chair, I hope I wasn't on the committee that came up with such antediluvian, stupid conditions. Open Monday to Friday, 7 till 6, or until 9 between the 1st of June and the 30th of August. Saturdays, Sundays and bank holidays, 7 AM to 6 PM, or until 9 PM between or no more than 6 days in any calendar year. The premises may remain open for customers until 10 PM. What a nonsense. I mean, how on earth could we have done anything so stupid? So my question to the applicants is, I think you've been very tolerant in accepting these hours and sticking to them. I think you're doing a damn good job, and I think this committee should vote for this without a lengthy discussion.
What have you done to Alan Amos?
Do I respond?
Yes, yes.
Can you clarify? I remember this application, and I think you proposed these times to us.
No, they wouldn't have done. They look too sensible.
Yeah, it wasn't that we came up with them.
Well.
was in relation to a request someone around this table made. No, it wasn't. It wasn't. No, it was a request made to
All right,
trial
but
us.
just- okay, so that's where we were, and the application is for where we want to be from the applicant's point of view. Councillor Reg.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just make a point of order before I go any further with my question, which is that Councillor Amos, did not ask a question in his previous, and I know you're a stickler for people asking questions.
Councillor Amos, did you not ask a question?
Well, let me clarify, Chair. Do you agree with what I said?
Thank you.
You did ask a question. The question was, did we choose those stipulations? No, we did not.
Say I did.
All right, Councillor Reg, do you have a question?
You'll be pleased to know I do, Chair, because
Go ahead.
I'm very, very compliant when it comes to following protocols. Can you just tell us a little bit more about community events? Have you done stuff already that's worked really well? Have you got other ideas beyond that, or could you give us a bit of detail?
Absolutely can. We gift the community room, which is the upstairs room, to the community. So classes are held there daily during our current opening hours. There are requests to hold those classes outside of our current opening hours, which we'd be open to. One of the reasons why we're looking to extend these hours. There are classes that range from the classes that we mentioned before we opened, baby classes, yoga classes, mindfulness, health and well-being, the list goes on. They're all really great classes. We gift the space for free, so we ask that the classes reduce their rates so that more participants can join in. Those that maybe could not before due to the higher price. Other requests are for family gatherings. Now that would be internal, it might spill to the outside also, but it's family gatherings, it's birthday parties, it's celebrations, it's those sort of things that we can't offer currently because the community room is in use. So it'd be looking to expand on those sort of events. Yeah.
Okay, I've got Councillor Kinsley. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I think I was possibly one of the people at the previous meeting who was expressing some concern over the opening hours, actually, in relation to parking over the bridge. But we were all, I think, very supportive of the project, and it's great to hear that it's been a success. There has been an objection raised, and this was a new venture, so I think we wanted to be on the cautious side with our hours. And there has been some concern about noise, but also cooking odours coming out from the road side of the building. Is there anything that you could do to mitigate either of those issues? Thank you.
Absolutely, and we've done so already. So in the image that you saw on the screen, there's a tent out the back now. That is to mitigate any ambient sound pollution. Regarding the smell, the extraction was already in the building. We didn't put that in. It is where it is. It points out the side of the building. It was a cafe before us. We're merely operating in the same guise. So there are filters. We have it regularly maintained. Outside of that, unfortunately, it's a cafe. There will be a cafe smell.
Councillor Riaz. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Isn't it refreshing to see? Isn't it refreshing, Chair, to see applicants adhering to their conditions? You understand, which we rarely get. We usually have call-ins in terms of where it's not. It's quite refreshing to see applicants adhering to their licensing or their planning conditions in terms of that, and coming back and you know, asking for something which isn't unreasonable. I believe that your business has been a really strong success, and you've demonstrated that, I believe, through what you've been doing in terms of that. My question to you is, what further ambition do you have in terms of regarding this space? Because you've made it your own, you made it a wonderful success, and we wish to kind of support you in that, in terms of that. We want to know what other further expansion plans that you've got.
For this site in particular, we obviously run these late night events currently through the summer. The profit from the ticket fees, we merely ticket it to minimise numbers, we're very mindful. The profit from those ticket sales goes to the Friends of Gulliver Park. That helps put on the events, that helps pay for some of the music. We put up a rather substantial Christmas tree last year, and we take delivery tomorrow of 30 deck chairs, which are for the use of the park, beautifully branded with kind folk. Nice natural cream. So in terms of goals and aspirations for the site, they far exceeded what we thought we might achieve here. We set out to be a community space that could be sustainable as a business, but also support the local community, and we feel like we've accomplished that. All we look to do now is just maintain that high level of standard and that service we provide.
Okay, thank you for your question there, Councillor Rios. Something you said, I'm afraid, was that I should have declared an interest at the beginning of the meeting. I am the Secretary of the Friends of Galliford Park, and thereby they have given money to the Friends of Galliford Park, but in fact the Friends of Galliford Park then contributed the money for new plants for Galliford Park, which benefited the whole City Council. I still think I can be here. It doesn't... Oh, everyone's tutting. Come on, I'm declaring. I could have not. It's a fair declaration, I think, and something I hadn't thought of before. What do I say after that? Nothing. I'm okay. I'm happy. Yeah, I'm happy.
You say that very well, Chair, if I may say so.
Did I?
Yeah, nothing. Yeah.
I did. Yeah. Yeah. Go on.
Just for clarity, Councillor Lewin has just informed me that she had forgotten to declare for this item. When it came to committee originally for the original application, a declaration was made, and Councillor Lewin elected to continue to speak and vote on the item because she felt that she wasn't predetermined. And the same is true today. So unfortunately, and apologies, I should have twigged as well. But there has been quite a lot of declarations and other things going on for this committee. So unfortunately, it was missed by both of us, but I think we are fine to proceed. So we'll return to questions.
Yeah. And I have got Councillor Agar, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I think I only have one question for you, and it's about the conditions here, condition 7. I notice you've got a big awning out the back. How are you making progress with that? Because I think you're removing temporary structures. Is that one of the temporary ones or not? It is. And will you be removing it by the date stated, which is 13th of February next year?
That condition was set so that if you wanted us to remove it, we would remove it. It wasn't that we will remove it.
Okay.
It is a temporary structure. It can be removed. And you set a date so that we could evidence that it was temporary and we could remove it. It is not a date that it will be removed. Does that answer your question?
Thank you. No, that's what I needed to know. Thank you.
Councillor De Serra?
Thank you, Chair. So my question is in the same area. Point 7 on page 38, the second sentence, the approved temporary covering shall be dismantled.
Yeah.
In their entire... So, but I think you just said that you weren't going to take it down. Is that right? I'm just confused now. That's all.
There is a due date by which it should be taken down. There is. It's February 27th.
So it can stay up till then, and then if they want it.
Through you, Chair, they can either apply to have that condition removed or apply for planning permission to retain that structure there for longer.
Chair. So just a supplementary then. So what is your plan for that area as it stands?
It would stay as existing, just the temporary structure would be taken down. The temporary structure is a pergola.
to harp about this, but so point 7, second point, the approved temporary covered areas. Is that there or is it not there right now today?
Absolutely, yes.
And is it going to stay forever?
No, it can come down on the date requested because it is temporary.
But what is your plan for it, was my question.
Our plan would be to ask for an extension.
Okay, thank you.
Do I have any other questions? I didn't notice. Anyone? No? Yes, please. Paul.
Through you, Chair, just clarification on condition 1, there's a sentence that's been missed off, members, which should say about the 6 events within the calendar year that allow to the premises to be open till 10 o'clock. So that's as per the existing condition, and that's been missed off. So apologies from officers, but any recommendation or any proposal that is made should include that from officers' recommendation.
All right, if you've got no further questions, you're free to move back. Thank you. And yeah, and then do we have any questions for officers, please? So, Councillor Sarah, go on.
I'm curious about the bat boxes in this and every other case, in fact. Do we ever monitor if they're used? Because we often stipulate wanting them. I don't know if we check, are they in a place where, because this might be quite a light place, I'm not sure where they are. It's just a general question, and particularly to this one.
Through you, Chair, in terms of the approval of the details, we've approved the details of what they look like and where they should go, so we've made sure that they're in the appropriate location. In terms of whether they're used, we don't monitor that. I think as we've discussed at this committee previously, I think there was a question raised, well, if we keep providing all of these boxes, are they ever used? Well, it's the opportunity for nesting and roosting, and that's what we do, and we provide that. So year by year, they might not be used, or they might be used, but as a City Council, we haven't got the resources to be able to monitor that.
But there are lots of bats in Gillivott Park. We do an autumn bat walk for that reason. Yeah. Thank you. Is that okay, Councillor? Yeah. Okay. I've got Councillor Kimberley now, please.
I think it's a mark of how benign this application is, that the question I'm going to sort of ask is just, it's as simple as this really. Under neighbours and other third-party comments, I note that there is a line about impact on parking should the free council car become chargeable. I presume there's a typo in there. I'm not aware that the council operates a free car. I presume that's free car parking space, nor have I seen anything in the application that suggests that that is about to change. Could I just confirm that that is correct? Thank you.
Through you, Chair, this really relates to the Waterworks car park, which is within the council's ownership, and I think there may be a proposal, this is outside my remit, for potentially consulting on charging for that. That is where that relates to. You're right, there is a missing park, and wouldn't it be lovely to have a free council car? But that's not part of the proposal.
Did anyone else have their hand up? Is it you, Councillor Reg?
Thank you, Chair. Very, very quick point, following on from Councillor Teixeira's point. I do think we ought to make a bit of an effort to see whether the bat roosting feature has been used, because if the lighting is going to change and be on for later, and it's the wrong sort of lighting, then you are going to have an impact on those. If there are no bats, it doesn't matter, but if there are, it might. I don't know whether I should have asked the...
Through you, Chair, it's not something within our powers to go back and check. However, what I can give assurance to members is that when the council's landscape officer approved the location of them, they were in locations that wouldn't be affected by lighting in any event. So even if it is on for longer, the bat roost will not be affected.
Councillor Udall?
I don't think we can condition the bats to what they actually use, the bat boxes. I think that's beyond our ability. On that basis, Chair, I don't hear any opposition or concerns. I think the obvious thing for us to do is to get this over and done with, and I move recommendation that this is approved.
And that's with the amended condition, Councillor Udall?
Of course, yes.
I thought so.
Yes.
So you're happy to propose with the amended condition? Oh, gosh. Ooh.
It doesn't often happen, Chair. I'll second it, but
I know. The thing is, Councillor Amos, I think you're a bit slow. I think Councillor Riaz put his hand up first. Though it would be nice to have different parties, actually. So, do you want to decide between you? Go on. Oh, Councillor Sarah.
I really want Councillor Amos to second this because I've never even seen him approve anything, never mind second it, so I'd love to see it.
With that in mind, Councillor Amos, this is your opportunity, therefore. Go on. And with the amended condition. Yes. Okay, lovely. Based on that then, so we've got proposer, seconder, amended condition agreed. Can I see all votes in favour? That is unanimous. We're going to have a 10-minute break. This is for technical reasons, as we have a public speaker representative coming via Zoom or Teams or whatever product we use here. So we'll come back at 20 past, please. Okay, welcome back everyone. We're moving to agenda item 10, which is the Corn Exchange, and we've got Laura doing the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So the submitted proposals in relation to this application at the Corn Exchange for a listed building consent seek an amendment to the existing listed building consents 24-00007 LB and 24-00518 LB to limit the opening up of the mezzanine, increase the provision of food and beverage facilities associated with mechanical, electrical and plumbing services, and add compliant passive fire protection and reduce internal alterations. Members may be aware that the planning permission and listed building consent has previously been approved for the external and internal refurbishments of the Scala Theatre. These were approved by the Planning Committee in March 2024. The site has also been subject to a couple of other non-material amendments and listed building consent applications following the original approvals. The application is referred to the committee as the City Council is the applicant. The application itself specifically only relates to the listed building consent application affecting the Corn Exchange. Therefore, this only relates to the considerations on the impact of the proposals themselves on the listed building. Accordingly, it is important to note that the principal development is not for consideration, having been already established as acceptable by the previous approvals. Application site has frontages on both Angel Street and Angel Place and is situated within the historic city conservation area and adjacent to a number of Grade 2 listed buildings. Application site comprises of a significant historic building, the Grade 2 listed former Corn Exchange in the north of the city centre. It's also connected to the locally listed former Scala Theatre. Some photographs here from various viewpoints to the frontage and around to the rear. Plan on the top left showing the direction each photo is taken from. Site is currently under development with scaffolding, making it difficult to see the building, so previous photographs have been included just for visualisation. Now moving just around to the site entrance, running towards the rear of the Crown Wetherspoons. Now the ground floor level as you enter the Corn Exchange. Now onto basement level. Now onto the mezzanine level. Final photos here is just showing the view to the side and rear elevations. Turning to the proposals themselves with the proposed ground floor plans and the changes. Proposed plan on the right showing both the previously approved changes and the proposed. However, I have highlighted the elements sought under this application in yellow on each of the proposed plans, just to make it a bit easier to see. Proposed changes on the ground floor include new and altered door openings, including a new glazed entrance door and kitchen door, extension to the accessible WC with ceiling hatch, installation of fire-rated screens, partitions and a fire window, upgrades to the existing alley gate with fire escape iron monkery, relocation and refurbishment of the bar with an accessible lowered section, installation of wall-mounted condensers within protective cages, formation of an enclosed kitchen, a new building regulations compliant balustrade and handrail. Now onto the second floor. Changes here include provision of a new hatch to the plant area within the fire lobby, retention of refurbishment of existing ductwork and associated housing, installation of a new door to the maintenance area. Now third floor, installation of new louvers incorporated into a window and the reuse of some of the existing louvers. Now basement level, changes here include new provision of a new keg store, installation of compliant sanitary ware to the existing female WC, provision of a new baby change facility with sink and WC, creation of a new cleaner store, formation of a new reheat kitchen, installation of a new handrail to the existing stair, retention of the existing storage room. Now the elevations, front elevation here, so that just shows the existing gate to be fitted with the fire escape ironmongery. Side elevations, so those reuse of the louvers again, upgrade to the existing alley gate, installation of some new louvers, a flue incorporated into a window, installation of wall mounting condensers with the protective cages again. Now on this side is upgrade to the existing gate again with a fire escape ironmongery, installation of new wall mounted condensers and reuse of the louvers again. Now looking at the existing and proposed sections, provision of a proprietary keg store with pipework fitted to fire colours, retention of the existing open plan kitchen with installation of a new wall and service hatch, installation of a new bar fit out and the provision of a new fire rated ceiling. Now some further sections, so there's just that retention of the kitchen again shown, new fire rated ceiling and the upgrade of the existing gate. Just having some problems with the PowerPoint. I can carry on anyway. So in heritage terms, the scheme is considered to represent a positive improvement where having been assessed against the current baseline situation, whilst also considering the extant approvals as a material consideration. Officers have assessed and determined that the proposals would have a sustaining and enhancing impact on the character and appearance of the conservation area. As such, there is a positive weight attributed. The submitted design and access and heritage statement concludes that the proposed amendments result in a neutral impact to the significance of the Corn Exchange as a Grade 2 listed building and the Scala Theatre as a locally listed building. Conservation officers have also been consulted and they have commented stating that they have no objections and that the proposals have a minimal impact on the listed building. Officers share the assessment with the heritage statement and the conservation officer, and it's also considered that the proposals also continue to secure the vacant building's return to public use, making the development acceptable in terms of heritage and planning policy. It's therefore considered that proposals comply with SWDPR 09 and SWDPR 33 in respect of heritage, as well as section 66(1) of the Planning Listed Building Conservation Areas Act 90. It's therefore recommended that the application for listed building consent is granted subject to conditions set out within section 9 of the officer report. Thank you, Chair.
Great, thank you, Laura. We'll just move to the representation now.
Hello, good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee.
Sorry, just wait a moment because you're not on the screen yet. Thank you. We've got Rebecca and George, who are the architects at Burrell, Foley and Fisher. But we'll just wait for you to come up on the screen.
Yep.
I'll tell you when it's ready.
All right, thank you.
Great, we can see you now.
Oh, perfect.
Okay, you've got 5 minutes. I'll just start the clock now and I'll call out if you get close.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. This application seeks amendments to the previously approved 2024 listed building consent for the Grade 2 listed former Corn Exchange on Angel Street. The amendments are as follows. At mezzanine level, the connection to the Scala together with the associated staff on the ground floor have been omitted. These changes primarily respond to the updated ambitions for the Scala Arts Centre. At ground floor level, the bar has been reconfigured and a new open kitchen has been introduced to enhance the food and beverage offer for the building. These changes improve operational efficiency and enhance the visitor experience. At basement level, the layout is simplified, consolidated, and demolition works have been reduced. Externally, new condenser units have been introduced at the rear of the building to support the enlarged kitchen provision. Minor adjustments have also been made to the approved lighting protection system to improve its efficiency. These interventions have been located to minimize visual impacts and preserve the character of the listed building. The updated scheme also improves the existing sanitary provision to meet current regulations. Provisions remain broadly consistent with the existing arrangements, with the addition of a dedicated baby change facility. The ground floor staff WC has also been extended to provide a compliant, adapted WC, removing the need for wheelchair users to access basement facilities. To conclude, the proposed amendments do not materially alter the form, scale, or external appearance of the consented development, nor do they alter the approved use or extend the red line boundary. Instead, the proposals represent a carefully considered and proportionate refinements to the approved scheme, which retain more historic fabric and ensure the building is fit for purpose for its long-term use. And finally, the proposals also preserve the special architectural historic interest of the Corn Exchange, whilst providing an opportunity to bring this important historic building within Worcester's historic city centre back into active public use and celebrate its significance for future generations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If I open the floor for questions, please. Councillor Sarah.
Thank you, Chair. A couple of questions. The mezzanine floor, we had the privilege of going around an early site visit in 2024, and we took the route. I think we were able to do it from the Scala. My memory might be not right here. From the Scala into the Corn Exchange and onto the mezzanine level, I think. Anyway, what is the current status or plan with that mezzanine? Because it was one of the things that was very, very ugly about the current building, and there wasn't enough money at that time to remove the bulkhead look of the thing. But there was, I believe, a plan to be able to access that level, or a higher level anyway, than the ground floor from the Scala Theatre. So those are my questions. Thank you. Just so I understand.
Yeah. So the scheme has had to be scaled back a little bit because of sort of updated ambitions for the Scala Arts Centre, so from their business plan. But in the future, it is still their ambition. So once they kind of gain the necessary funding to still provide that link between the Scala and the Corn Exchange, and also just upgrade the mezzanine level and make it look more of a sort of welcoming space.
But there is no current connection between the two buildings. So at the moment, they're two separate buildings. There was at some point a provision to link them, but for like operational reasons, this proposal was dismissed. But what we're doing with the current scheme is we're future-proofing the mezzanine in case it needs to be used in the future. Sorry to jump in on this.
Just really quickly. So are you saying that the mezzanine as it is now will be left exactly as it is with the sort of bulkhead look of the thing?
Yes, but Scala Arts Centre does have sort of future ambitions to sort of refurbish that space. So one of the kind of future-proof provisions that we've made is to link the proposed lift to the mezzanine to allow that sort of those future works to happen.
I'm sorry, that's just not answered my question. I'm sorry to persist.
I think What they said was it's going to be looking like it does now, but with the ambition of changing it in the future when there's more funds. But the lift will stop at the mezzanine now, but just not open, I suppose, because...
That's exactly right. So at the moment, there's a lot of services that are housed on the upper level on the mezzanine, and we need to retain these. We're refurbishing all of the services to improve the performance of the building. But at the moment, the mezzanine needs to stay as a services space. What we're doing is future-proofing it with a lift going up to the mezzanine level and concealing as much of the services as we can so that there's enough space to be used in the future when the mezzanine gets back into the scheme.
Councillor Agar, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for being with us on screen today. It's a big help to be able to ask you questions. I can see there's a certain amount of cost engineering that's been necessary, and the detail of that really is in section 3.3 of the application. You are talking of removing one of the women's toilets. Now, my experience of of the number of loos for ladies in Worcester is not terrific. And those toilets will be serving La Scala as well as the Corn Market, is my understanding. How many toilets will be available to women? And is that actually fewer than before? Or if you count, say, the baby change, is that going to count as a women's toilet or something? How many are there?
So the total number of toilets that we're providing with this revised scheme is 3, and that is the same as the existing provision. So at the moment, the number of toilets in the building is for female is also 3. But there will also be a significant sort of WC provision uplift in the Scala building in the future, which will sort of support the overall capacity of the Corn Exchange as well. So in the Scala, we have sort of 3 new proposed female WCs and then 4 gender neutral WCs.
Sorry, are you saying there will be 6 overall between the 2 buildings? Is that it?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, and then 4 gender neutral as well.
Thank you for that clarification, because as a good feminist, I really don't want to see a reduction in ladies' loos.
Yeah, well, me neither.
Thank you.
Yeah, but you are right, Councillor Agar. With the additional baby change, there is a WC in that for whoever is going to do the baby changing. I've got Councillor, who put their hand up? Was it you, Kimberly? Councillor, it was.
Thank you, Chair. Believe it or not, Councillor Agar asked the exact same question, and I think I'm going to hold asking anything else until later. Thank you.
Okay, so do we have any other questions? No. So just to wrap up what the whole point of this is, it's because you have, I think you said it yourselves, you're retaining more of the historic fabric. You're doing minimising visual impact and simplifying layouts, and you've also saved some money. Is that basically it?
While also increasing the provision of the kitchen and bar area.
Okay.
So this is improved.
Okay. The only thing is on the drawing that we saw, there were some outside air handling units. Have those changed?
So the units are condensers. You mean the units at the back of the Corn Exchange?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they are so those are condenser units which are required to run the enlarged kind of kitchen provision.
Okay, and they're on the back of the building.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, all right, lovely. Thank you. Is everyone happy to? Oh, Councillor Kimberley.
Thank you. I was just scrolling through a little bit lower in the document, and I wanted to just get a little bit of a deeper understanding about the fire escape ironmongery, which is presumably, it looks like it is new to this part of the application and not part of the previous. Is that, how is that being sort of aesthetically integrated into the design? Is that okay for me to ask?
I can respond to that, Rebecca, if you want me to. So we have two gates, so one in Crown Passage and the other one in the passage on the east of the building. So both of the gates, especially the one in Crown Passage, which is like of a significant architectural importance, let's say, they're being refurbished, and the maglocks and all the relevant ironmongery that's needed for the purposes of egress in case of an emergency will be incorporated in the redesign, let's say, of the gates. So all this will be, carefully, determined and positioned as to not, reduce the architectural importance of the overall building, let's say. And all of them will be hidden in the passages either way, so nothing will be exposed on the front facade, let's say. The most important things are on the inside because that's the way of the egress, the path of the escape.
Okay, I can't see anyone else asking questions, so you're free to go. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Oh, that was novel, wasn't it? Can I have any questions for officers at all? Or any comments? Thank you, Councillor Kimberley.
Thank you. I just wanted to observe the bits. We've obviously had comment back from West Mercia Police in terms of encouraging us to use Secure by Design. I understand that that is not something that is part of this application. I was just hoping you could outline why so that we understand for ourselves explicitly what the reasoning is for that. Thank you.
Through you, Chair, just to clarify on that one, the reason why it's not a strict consideration for this application is because we're only looking at changes to the listed building, but we do know there are important points, so we thought put them on as an informative so the applicant, the City Council are aware. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Tesoro?
I just would like to make the point that I don't think 6 toilets is enough in a building like this for ladies across 2 venues, effectively. It's not part of the application, but I don't think it's great.
Noted. Councillor Ramos?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Could I, just looking at the description, can I just clarify that I've got it right? Because if we're not opening up the mezzanine, what is the purpose of it, other than it happens to be there? And then it talks about the increase in the provision of food and beverage facilities. Obviously, the other bits about making it compliant and so on, nobody would object to any of that. So just want to narrow it down, because it concerns me that what we could end up with, and I'm speaking here as a councillor as well as a member of the planning committee, is a glorified cafe. And I don't think that was the intention. So my concern is we seem to be moving away from the original brief. And is that because this has become a bottomless pit of money, that we can't afford these things? Because these incremental changes is going to change what we set out to achieve. Obviously, on their own, I can see why they may have to be done. We may not have much option, frankly, if it's about money, in going along with this. But I would just like some clarification on that, because in going along with this, we are talking about, is it a bottomless pit? What is the new design? What is the outcome of this? Because I don't suppose these are going to be the last changes, frankly. Beautiful buildings, and we're right to spend the money doing them up, of course. But this is beginning to bother me.
Through you, Chair, they're all very important questions. I'm not sure they're the questions for this committee. We are considering changes to a listed building consent in terms of the impact on that listed building and the changes that are being looked at. I appreciate this is a change to the overall project, but we're not considering the changes to the project as part of this application. What we're considering is, do those changes, or does the overall scheme now have an adverse impact on the listed building any more than it did previously? And that's what we're considering. So in terms of your questions, Councillor Amos, that might be a question that you may need to raise separately with perhaps the project officer as part of the overall scheme, but it's not one for this application, I'm afraid.
Chair, I understand that's a fair point, but can I just ask then on the consequences if the mezzanine is not opened? I mean, obviously it's got to be maintained, whether it's closed or open. So what is the consequence by going along with this recommendation to omit the opening of it?
Through you, Chair, the consequences is that it will just stay as it is. There will be a requirement for the council and the Scala as the arts theatre to maintain that. The consequences are that the lift provision will still go up to the mezzanine, and that it provides the opportunities, should funding allow, and I would assume that this council will be seeking further opportunities for funding to be able to open that up. So going forward, I see that it is a bright future, that there is that opportunity there. This isn't going to be capped off and sealed forever. And this is just a moment in time that actually we can't go as far as we wanted to go. And actually we will get there, I'm sure of it. And you can say, well, Mr. Round would say that, but that's my belief, and I think we will get there.
As always, I admire your optimism, Mr. Round.
I haven't seen any of your hands, I don't think. So, Councillor Agard, would you like to propose a discussion of some kind?
I wanted to say something first, if I may.
Of course.
Thank you.
No, that's what I mean.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Apologies. Yes. I can see that a certain amount of cost engineering is likely to be necessary. I mean, costs are rising fast. We all know that there's a fuel crisis. So, yes, I do understand that. And for the most part, I'm reasonably happy with that concept and the fact that we may be able to do more in the future. One thing I'm not at all happy with is actually the reduction in the number of women's toilets. I don't think it's forgivable. We're supposed to be a council that takes equality seriously, you know, and that doesn't somehow. If you think about the Swan Theatre and the number of toilets in the Swan Theatre, there's always a queue of desperate women outside the women's toilets because there aren't enough. I think there are about 3 there. This building never had enough loos in the first place, and we seem to be making the situation worse. The council does not offer much in the way of public toilets. The only ones we did offer were the ones in Angel Place, and I think there are about 8 of those to start with. Here we're talking about reducing very, very few that exist here in this building. And these are the replacement toilets along with those in the La Scala for the original ones. It really isn't acceptable. If this were a motion before council, I'd be making an amendment, but it's not. Sorry, that wasn't a question, it was meant to be a point. I presume this is cost engineering, is it?
Through you, Chair, if I could just add a few points on the toilet provision, because I did ask the agent and they provided some details yesterday. So as existing in the building, there's 3 female toilets. In the 2024 previously consented scheme, there was 4, and there is 3 that is currently proposed. They have said that the reason why is due to updated regulations regarding WC compliant widths, which now require increased clearances, which consequently reduce the overall number of WCs compared to the 2024 consented scheme. So I think that's the reason, it's just due to the requirements. But it is the same as the existing provision within the building, but just not as previously consented. I hope that helps.
And I suppose when it had 3 toilets before, it did operate as a restaurant before.
Yeah, that's correct, Chair.
We've got the baby change, which has got a WC in it as well, which is an improvement. Yep. Anybody else? I think everyone's tired. You all look so tired. Has anyone got a feeling of how they feel about this? Councillor Kinsley?
Well, someone has to say something. So, I mean, I think it all seems fine. If they have to, make some changes, then that's great. I think we all want this to work. Well, I shouldn't speak on behalf of others, but we want this to succeed. And if this is what needs to happen, these seem to be relatively minor changes. Toilet provision, take aside, then yeah, let's what's there to say, really? Let's go for it.
Is that a proposal, Councillor Kinsley?
Happy to propose, but yeah.
If Councillor Kinnersley wasn't offering to propose, I was prepared to either propose or second. I think that, it's not a perfect application, but I think very rarely do we actually get something put in front of us which is perfect. It is hopefully an improvement in terms of being more deliverable. And if that is the case, if that means that we end up with the building being refurbished, that is positive. I absolutely share the view that we shouldn't be compromising on equalities where we can possibly avoid it. I think that that comment needs to be noted and needs to be acted on in future. But I think in terms of does it sink this application, probably not. I think it's important that we actually do move forwards and get this renovation completed. So I would like to propose or second, whichever is needed.
Thank you, Councillor Kimberley. Councillor Riaz, I did see your hand up, if you want to say something. No. Councillor Cross, your hand has gone up.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I struggled with sort of keeping the oversight of this or understanding the brief. It was very helpful to be told that, well, it was very clarifying to be told that our decision today, it purely relates to the impact upon the listed building, not on the principle of development. And I completely agree about the concerns about numbers of toilets, which am I right in thinking that that is principle of development rather than the impact on the listed building? What I found useful, which answered my questions and gave me the clarity that I needed, was the document from the architects talking about the historic, the combined planning reports and what's proposed and what's been consented, what changes. And so section 3.2 was really helpful on the combined planning reports document. So yeah, there's not much to say because what is the impact on the listed building? It's either do or don't, and we have to do.
Okay, right. Councillor Agar?
Thank you. I think I'm going to vote for this under protest, but I would very much like to make the point, if there is any possibility at all of increasing the number of women's toilets back to what we expected, I would expect that to be done.
Thank you, Councillor Agar. I think we should feed that back to the applicant. Does anyone else like to speak, or are we happy to accept that we've got a proposal from Councillor Kinsley and a seconder from Councillor Kimberley? There are no amendments, are there? Are there any amendments? No. Based on that, are people ready to vote or not? People are. Yeah. Okay. Right. Can I see all hands in favour, please? That's unanimous. Okay. Thank you. I've got no further business, so. Oh, I have actually. I'm sorry. I'm going to remind you about the planning training. You should have all had an email, I think, from Margaret with a calendar invite. Even if you're not due to do planning training, because I do think it lasts 2 years, doesn't it? There's been so many changes with planning at the moment, regulations. I think it's really important that everyone attends, please. If you can't do the date, then maybe further opportunity, but I'm not sure. Okay, and based on that, I will now close the meeting. Thank you. Bye.